Today's sermon is entitled, It Was Good. And as I said, we'll be looking at the beginning of Genesis. So, I have a lot of hobbies in my life, but I think the most gratifying hobby I've got is woodworking. Now, I enjoy my time playing around on the computer. I like dabbling with painting or sketching, truly love playing guitar, but there's nothing as gratifying as woodworking for me. First, to put a concept down on paper and figure out what I need to do to do the job, the supplies that I need and all that. It's the challenge of logic. And then to cut and smooth the wood, shaping it to meet the form needed to fit together with the other pieces, just soothes my sense of unity. And finally, doing the finishing work, the sanding, the smoothing, the staining, the polishing, giving the sense of completion in a job hopefully well done. It's so satisfying. It's a wonderful thing to sit back and look at the accomplishment of building, creating a pleasant looking functional piece of furniture, whatever it is. I've made a lot of pieces over the years, and with every challenge or pitfall, I learn more and more about what I'm doing. I just wish I could visualize and plan and have everything always fall into place. But of course, I'm not perfect, and that'll never happen. But you can still have a nice looking piece. However, I still feel the satisfaction with the woodwork I create with my own hands. The only more satisfying thing is to serve God, being able to put to work the things that He's given me for the benefit of others. With every sermon written, Bible study provided, every word of God spoken to an unbeliever, I am pleased. This isn't because of pride or because I believe I have flawlessly given a sermon. Nothing like that. I'm pleased because I've been able to serve God in the way that He's called me. I can only pray that I'm glorifying His name in that service. Well, today we're going to see what God says is good. His perfect creations. That's right, we're going all the way back to the beginning, creation itself. We're going to start off with Genesis 1:1, the creations of the heavens and earth, all the way to the initial creation of man. It's been a long time since we've really looked at these scriptures, and I know that most people feel they are intimately familiar with them. But let's go through them again. Maybe we'll see something that we overlooked the many times we read it before. Well, since Genesis 1 is so long, I'm only going to read the beginning couple of verses and then jump up to the creation of man. So let's start off with Genesis 1:1-2. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void. The darkness was over the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God hovering over the face of the waters. Genesis 1:26-31. Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God, He created him. Male and female, He created them. And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit. You shall have them for food. And to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life, I have given every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw everything that He had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. Now, as I said, we're jumping all the way back to the beginning of the Bible and our existence on this earth, when God created the heavens and the earth. Again, Genesis 1:1-2. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. We read the first verse that God created the heavens and the earth out of the void. There was nothing, just the void. No stars, no space, no solar system, no Milky Way, nothing. We're told by those who don't hold to the creation story that the earth was created out of some big bang event, the collision of planets or some such thing. But we see here that there was nothing to create a big bang. There was darkness everywhere. Then the question is asked, if there was nothing, how could the Spirit of God hover over the face of the waters? Well, consider the void. Could there have been moisture in the void? Or if you look carefully, this portion of the verse actually comes after God creates the heaven and earth. Even though the earth was without form and void, God created it in whatever form he gave it. Perhaps not ready yet to inhabit, but created nonetheless. Then God began creating a place where things could grow, prosper, and populate. Genesis 1, 3-5. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. He began with light and darkness, separating the two in such a way as a portion of each day would have light, day, and another portion would have darkness, night. First, though, he had to create the light. Just another instance where we find that there was nothing but dark in the void to build from. In creating the light, God gave us the saving grace of light to be our guide, for our guiding focus throughout history. The metaphor always using light and darkness to describe good and evil. You see, God is putting together the foundation of the earth and the skies above. These are the building blocks that he uses upon which he can grow things. Genesis 1, 6-8. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." And God made the expanse and separated the waters that were under the expanse from the waters that were above the expanse. And it was so. God called the expanse heaven. And there was evening and there was morning, the second day. He needed to separate the waters, the vapors of the void, the water that was everywhere in his creation. Sounds like he planned this out. He separated the expanse of waters, those above and those under. He placed within the expanse the heavens, his dwelling place. Realize that so far he's only spent 2 days on the clock of day and night that he first created. The third day, as we read, is set aside for the creation of the lands and the seas, where everything else that he creates will live. Genesis 1, 9-10. And God said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together in one place, and let the dry land appear." And it was so. God called the dry land earth, and the waters that were gathered together he called seas. And God saw that it was good. God moved the waters aside so the dry lands could appear. Evidently, they existed beneath the waters first, and then were made apparent when God shifted the water out of the way. The first 10 verses of Genesis are for the creation of the earth and the heavens. This is all done, like I said, in preparation for all those things that he would create. No living, growing thing could have come before these preparations were made. And now the Creator is ready for the living things, those things that would make this planet green and provide us the oxygen that we need for breathing. Notice, first of all, that nothing done so far has been called good by God until we got to verse 10, where he says, and God saw it was good. He started putting into the earth those living green things, the vegetation that bears seeds, fruit trees that bear seeds. And these all sprouted and propagated new seeds so the vegetation could spread across the earth. This is just one more step toward greater creations to come. Those things that would need the plants to live, grow, and survive. You could say that this is part of God's survival plan for mankind. Remember when the early settlers came into the Americas, both Canada and US. The first thing they did was prepare crops on which they could survive. Their survival plan. Well, with the new growth of new life on the planet, on Earth, God saw it was good, and that was the first time that he uttered it. It was good. And the third day was done. And Genesis 12b, and God saw that it was good. Then God created the lights in the heavens, separated for day and night. Our scriptures give us several reasons. He created them to be signs and for the seasons, making divisions of days and years. He made for the sake of simplicity, the sun and the moon, one to rule over the day, the lesser to rule over the night. And when we look at the moon, we find it affects the earth with tides. Genesis 1:17, and God set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth. He used these things to separate the light from the darkness, day from night. And again, he saw that it was good. But he wasn't done yet, because now God started putting living, breathing creatures on the earth. He began with the oceans and skies, filling them with swimming creatures and flying creatures of all different types. He didn't just create one kind of fish or one kind of bird, but great varieties according to their kinds. Genesis 1:21, so God created the great sea creatures and every living creature that moves, with which the waters swarm according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. And you see again, God saw that it was good. And the fifth day was completed. The preparations continue for what would be his greatest creation. But God still had more to do. The animals. He needed to put together a collection of beasts on the earth that would populate the world. Can you believe the imagination that God had to have considering the multitude of creatures he made? Genesis 1:24, and God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their kinds, livestock and creeping things, and beasts of the earth according to their kinds. And it was so. So he designed and built livestock and creeping things and beasts of the earth, each according to their kind. What a variety. Zebras with many stripes, giraffes with necks higher than a house, hippos weighing more than a car, tigers, lions, ferrets, cats, dogs, swine, sheep, such a variety. And he gave them all the breath of life. I think I would have been dazzled when the first appeared on the earth. And how could we not say it was good? But this is only part of the sixth day. I think the biggest argument amongst skeptics and disbelieving comes from the fact that God did all of this in less than 6 days so far. And he's still working on that 6th day. So the things God created so far in Scripture came in, let's say, 5.5 days. The skeptics say, well, what about the dinosaurs? Well, you know, Christians don't deny the existence of dinosaurs. In fact, the Bible even mentions a dinosaur. Look at Job 40, 15 to 18. Behold, Behemoth, which I made as I made you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold, his strength is in his loins. His power is in the muscles of his belly. He makes his tail stiff like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze. His limbs are like bars of iron. It's as close as we can get to a dinosaur in the Bible. There are two concepts of creation, though. Creation we see in our Bible and spontaneous generation. The latter, spontaneous generation, was disproved over 120 years ago by science. Yet skeptics keep pushing that concept. So after bringing this up, the next question comes from those who believe in the evolution theories. Man evolved from apes. Well, let me say that the whole accounting of evolutionary development is contrary to biblical teachings throughout the Bible. There are groups even within the church who are spouting the evolution theories. Theistic evolution theorists have dictated that God did create all things, but that evolution has spawned the development of modern creatures, including man. I say the Bible is unerring, and its description of the creation of the earth and life on the earth should be adhered to entirely. Look at this from Ken Ham, a creationist apologist. The creation message has matured over the past 3 decades as the discernment and understanding of creationist leaders has matured. More and more, the emphasis is on the foundational issue. Compromise of Genesis ultimately undermines the gospel itself. Moving forward, we come to God's greatest achievement on the earth. Maybe I'm being prideful for the sake of mankind, but now he creates us. Genesis 1:26a. Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Everything else was completed. The formation of the earth, the creation of day and night, the sun, moon, stars, heaven, oceans, and dry land. Then God inhabited the planet. It's no mistake that God prepared these other things before he put the first breathing creatures here. Like I said, I really enjoy woodworking, and my first step in any project is to design it. Well, I determine what I want the project to be, what its purpose will be, how it functions, and how it will appear. God no less planned his creation. He knew its purpose before he began to create. He knew the function of every portion of the elements and knew how he wanted them to appear. The preparations of God were done so that when he was to create mankind, we could live freely in this place. He put the plants and livestock in the world for us to eat, nourishing us. If you look at it, he didn't just give us vegetables, yuck, but gave us fruits, livestock, fish, all the things the human body needs to grow and thrive. By creating these plants and with the possibility of propagation, seed-bearing plants, God ensured that they would reproduce to keep mankind well supplied over the years. And God knew how he wanted us to appear. In his own image. Genesis 1:27a. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. That is not to say that we are the spitting images of God himself in appearance, but I'm sure our bipedal stature, standing upright, straight, eyes, nose, lungs, ears, all the physical characteristics were designed with himself in mind. But more so, he created us, and this is the important part, he created us with a thinking mind, a free will to make decisions, and wisdom of sorts to be wise in those decisions, and a soul with which to worship him. And greater still, God created us to be responsible stewards of his creations. Genesis 1:27b, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the heavens and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. You see, God built us to be relational, to have relationships with one another, with the creatures he placed before us, and mostly him. So what's the first purpose of life? Our first human priority should be God. God wants us to have a deep and personal relationship with him, worshiping, praising, serving him in all things. This isn't a one-sided relationship either. In turn, through his love of mankind, he provides for us, listens to our prayers, and answers them. With the first man and woman, Adam and Eve, he gave them the entirety of the world to reside on. The beasts of the earth, the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky. And God blessed them. Genesis 1:28. And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on earth. As you see, God has told us to be fruitful and multiply, to fill the earth with others of our kind. So our second priority in life should be family. Our relationship there should be one of loving and nurturing our young so they can grow to be productive in the eyes of God. Our children should be raised to follow God and understand their need to keep him as their priority. Most of all, we should work to maintain our relationship with our children to the ends of our lives, always there to guide and advise as they need it, but never to control or command. Our next priority is the rest of God's creations, the animals, the birds, the fish, every growing thing. And we can see that we are really in trouble here. This is the one point that we are really failing on. We have so many animals that are on the endangered list now, mainly because man has either wiped them out or destroyed their natural wildernesses, or simply taken them for granted. Here's a quote from Peter Navarro, an American economist. He says, in the free market and in the absence of planning, developers will flatten every hillside, fill every canyon, obliterate every endangered species, and pave over every wetland that they think they can make a buck on. Throughout the world, that's the mindset that people have. One great example of this can be seen in the western plains of the United States, basically Oklahoma, Nebraska, Dakotas, where buffaloes or bison roam the plains in huge numbers. The Indians, the Native Americans, what you call First Nations, they only took what they needed to survive. But the foreigners, white men mainly, nearly extinguished the buffalo population within a 5-year period in the 1800s. That wasn't what God wanted. He wanted us to take care of the creatures of the earth, not wipe them out. And God wanted and still wants mankind to care for all his creations wisely and without the greed and malice that humankind has been showing. God created all these things for us to hold dominion over. Then he stepped back, looked at it all, and declared it was very good. Genesis 1:31, and God saw everything that he made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the 6th day. Yet when I step back and look at society today, when I look at the degradation of so many of our kind, I have to wonder, would God still say that it was very good? Would God still say that? I feel as though the majority of mankind has forgotten the mandate that God placed before us, to hold dominion over the rest of creation. Understand the term dominion means that we are to have sovereignty over these things. But sovereignty inherently means that we are responsible to care for and protect those things. If we keep going the way we are, there won't be anything left to hold dominion over. God will see to that in the end times. When God wiped away all humanity from the earth except Noah and his family, had he intended for this to be the restart of creation as well? Perhaps he saw through the glaring example of mankind's evil that this would be the outcome, and that the nature he created would one day be devastated as it is now. Perhaps he understood that mankind, as degraded from its original design had gotten, would in time have destroyed so many beautiful designs. Through his love of his creation and mankind as an image of himself, he could never have expected that the original sin committed by Adam and Eve would cause us to fall so low. But God prevails. His Son put many back on track with his initial plans. Through Jesus Christ, his Son, his word was once again spread to those who would look to be saved from their sins. Jesus has kept mankind from becoming an endangered species out of itself, at least for the time being. And if our efforts to evangelize and bring others back into the fold of God's arms is successful, perhaps a bit of his creation will be saved. I pray endlessly that we can be his servants, and that in the days to come, we will see creation anew in the new heaven and the new earth.